this up and ask some basic questions. First of all, to Sushant Sareen. Sushant Sareen, this decision to move ahead with the purchase comes at a time when Trump is sanctioning Russia. The EU is also now sort of sanctioned Russia and energy supplies, and it is doing so because it wants to choke any ability of Putin to raise resources to fund his war. Now, if someone is purchasing weapon systems worth 10,000 crores, that would obviously, at some level, allow Mr. Putin to collect the money to do what he wants to do, intends to do, be accused of doing in Ukraine. So how do you see this purchase by the Prime Minister on the behalf of the government, this deal that has been struck? I think you're on mute. Yeah, go ahead. Yes.
I'm sorry. I think you need to distinguish the oil purchases from the defense purchases. Because the oil purchases, as was made very clear, was being done on economic principles. And as long as those economic principles hold, we'll continue to import oil from Russia. Of course, if, for example, the burden of sanctions becomes too big, then we will have to rethink our oil supplies from Russia. But in any case, the oil sanctions that are being imposed on Russia are not immediate. They are, in a sense, there is a certain delay by when they will kick in.
Mid-November. Yeah.
Mid-November in some cases, even longer in others, depending on what are the kind of contracts, because even European countries were buying Russian oil and gas. So that's still some distance away. On the defense purchases, again, for anybody to say that if you are buying the missile systems from Russia right now, this is some kind of a new purchase, it's not. See, if we were buying new batteries, and that is also under consideration, then it would be a completely new purchase that we were doing from the Russians. But this is basically beefing up what we already have. Now, this is something similar to the Americans saying that, okay, fine, we will supply AMRAAM missiles to Pakistan because Pakistan has already bought F-16 aircraft and those need to be kept serviceable. So this is in a manner of speaking, I don't know if it applies to this particular case or not. This is a kind of grandfathering of a purchase that had already been made. And in any case, Rahul, it's not that, that money is going to be given up front and those missiles, it's not.
No, true, I understand that. But a red flag, Trump is somebody who's unpredictable. The Biden administration, and I'll quote it, made it clear to India that it was, quote, discouraging, unquote, India from going ahead in the initial period, I'm talking about 2022, with the acquisition of this missile defense system from Russia, because it'll have to weigh important geostrategic considerations while taking a decision on growing calls for a presidential CAATSA waiver to New Delhi. We got that CAATSA waiver out of Biden, but we may not be so lucky out of Trump. He's going to use every leverage. And therefore, this becomes redolent with symbolism.
No, but see, Rahul, that is, this is something like the retrospective taxation that we used to have. Now, if you're going to start applying that, then it's a different ballgame altogether. But I think the calculation in India is that because this is an old purchase and we are simply beefing up our stocks, this is a completely different ballgame. Secondly, the money is not being given up front. These missiles are not coming tomorrow and the money is not being given day after. This will take some period of time before this entire transaction runs through. Thirdly, I think we will also have to consider somewhat that, look, Russia has been a great friend. It's been an ally. It's been a very good defense partner. But somewhere along the line, we will have to consider in the new geostrategic realignments that are taking place, Russia is supplying similar weapon systems to, for example, China and Turkey, both of which are very, very close friends of Pakistan. How much of information sharing is between them and Pakistan on these very systems, which we will be depending on very
that is true of a large number of defense suppliers. That's true of America. America supplies, as you yourself have just said, weapons and ammunition to Pakistan. And of course, there are other individuals who are not very well disposed towards India either that sort of receive all this. So I think that is a general sort of cautionary note that needs to be struck. But fundamentally, viewers, Trump will see anything and everything as an instigation. And it does take some amount of gumption to forge ahead against a consensus that has been spelt out by the Americans in the past. We might have our nuanced differences, but I think that one can't be blind to the fact that the Trump administration will see this at some level as India underlining its ties with Moscow once again. So, Akhil Swami, that brings me to the question that with India showing no signs really of moving away from Moscow, this whole business of surrender to Trump seems to now be a scurrilous campaign, which is really political rather than substantive.
Rahul, I don't think it is political. See, I need clarifications on 3-4 issues. I'll be very thankful if they are clarified. Number one, do the world recognizes America as a boss of the world? Who is America to dictate terms to other countries if it is economically beneficial for us to import the oil from Russia and where we are getting cheaper? Who is America to dictate terms to one? Number one. Number two is a clarification from the Reliance Industries spokesperson is not clear that we are reducing the oil supply from Russia as per the new policy of the government of India. Number two. Number three, that if we are importing 30% cheaper oil from Russia, why the users of petrol and diesel in India are not getting subsidized rates? America says that in China...
That's a separate question. Let's stick to the first two. Let me push those two questions to Mr. Sushant Sareen. Let him respond. Yes. Mr. Sareen, you heard the questions.
So, Rahul, it's not so difficult. Here is the thing. America is nobody to dictate to us. Okay? Very clearly. But just as America has its own policy, we have our own policy.
Yeah.
Now, for the gentleman on your show to claim that, America is telling us to do something. Yes, America will tell us to do something. We can decide whatever we want to decide. And then America will decide what it wants to decide. And if it says that, well, I am going to put certain sanctions on you, then either we have to bear those sanctions, as I'm sure the gentleman, Mr. Swami, I believe his name is, will be very happy to bear and will be very happy to undertake the costs which come with it, costs in real lives, costs in industrial devastation, and families getting devastated because of joblessness that will be created, because it is not possible for you to have markets or replace markets immediately. Now, if we are ready to pay that cost and Mr. Swami stands with the government of India, which I'm sure he will not, he will scoot the first moment that happens because then make that an issue, then it's a different problem, right? So a government of the day cannot take a very cavalier attitude. It will have to balance out foreign policy priorities, domestic priorities, economic pain that it can take and it should take and what it cannot take. And I'm sure everybody understands that. So this is about the relative negotiating powers of countries. We might not like what the Americans are doing, and I certainly don't. But there are some ways that you have to find some kind of a middle path if that one is possible. Otherwise, be ready to take the pain if you want the pain. Or you say, okay, fine, I'm not going to take the pain. I will give in to everything Trump is asking because he can ask for it, get away with it. On the second issue, again, see, number one, a private company will decide on its own profit lines on where it will buy oil from. If it's profitable for them to buy oil from Russia, they will buy oil from Russia. If the discounts from Russia get pared down and it's no longer makes economic sense, or there are other costs going to be attached because you are buying Russian oil, you can't force the hands of a private company to say that no, you will have to buy from Russia because I want you to do it.
Akhil Swami, quick one before I bring in Mr. Markov, Dr. Markov. Yes.
See, the basic point is that if the intention of America is putting highest sanctions on India is trade deal. And I'm telling you, within 15 days, all the media will be discussing as the India has succeeded in getting a trade deal with America.
Mr. Swami, let's make a substantive intervention. Look, I don't think it's in anyone's interest not to have a trade deal with the United States. It's just that you have to examine the fine print of the deal to see how much we've conceded before we can suggest. I mean, are you making the signing of a trade deal an issue? Surely
Yes.
you're not. Surely
Yes,
you're not. Oh,
yes.
really? Oh, that
America
is
forcing us.
viewers.
America
I'll tell
has
you. No,
put
I mean, how do
sanctions.
you know? Why are we having these protracted sanctions?
telling
If we
you,
were being forced and we were expecting and we were rolling over.
America's
No, I'm
interest
sorry.
is
Please,
intention is.
Mr.
Intention is
Swami, please.